Hi, I'm Ng Wee Wei, Country Managing Director of Accenture Singapore. This is my hot take on the future of cities and the future of work. In Accenture, we've revamped our innovation hub focusing on the future of cities. And we actually posed the question of what would a city look like in 30 years' time? If you just think about a lot of things that will happen in the next decade, just the shift of energy sources to renewables, starting with first our vehicles, for example, I think would start opening up our options. The urban landscape as we know it today, the width of the pathways, the purpose of the parking lot, how we go to malls, part of it has already been demonstrated by the pandemic that these assumptions don't need to hold. Imagine the future, maybe this building that we're in, right? It's not just an office building. It could be a building where we also have vertical farming here. There are many, many possibilities, and these are just near term, right? And if you stretch it even further, we think about what's the impact of 3D printing? Would that impact the way we even think about healthcare? If we start throwing up assumptions that we don't see today, but maybe will be there tomorrow, and then we scale back, and then we say, therefore, if some of those are even likely or possible, then what should we be doing today? So I think that's kind of what we're excited about right now. Many of the technologies we just talked about are becoming more and more mature and definitely more and more affordable, right? And I think we're just scratching the surface of the application of these technologies today. And I think a lot will become more exciting when we overlay many of these technologies and apply them to use cases. What's also important is the fact that we cannot think about these applications within the silos of an organization. We need a whole ecosystem to transform, and we have the government in the middle trying to coordinate some of these transformations so that we don't let a million pilots that go nowhere, but have a bit more of a coordinated vision around the purpose and the application of these technologies. So that's why we're very excited about the Innovation Hub, because I think that's the place for us to bring the stakeholders together and have the opportunity to identify partnerships that exist outside of boundaries of organizations. Singapore being small is both our disadvantage as well as our advantage. And therefore, many of these things we can experiment here in this little city-state. We recently did a study together with Oxford Economics. It's a global report, and Singapore is one of the countries that joined in from Accenture perspective. We actually provided, 4 fundamentals, and we discussed them in the report. But one of the things that I would like to talk about is really the fact that we encourage government to think big and bold about the initiatives. Rather than just spend for the 2 days, let's use this opportunity to think broader and bigger, because we believe that will bring multipliers. And these multipliers will create jobs, will promote growth, right? Would improve access to services. And therefore, if we can focus on what is needed for the city, for the future, and channel some of these resources and attention accordingly, we can really bring some of that future of cities imagination to life. Already we talk a lot about human plus machine. It's inevitable that we as humans need to figure out how to work with machines in our daily work life. Much of the number crunching, much of the mundane repetitive work will be taken over by machines. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. But I think that leaves us as humans thinking about what role do we play. And to me, that means, at least in a white-collar setting, that means we need to be able to do the high-order stuff. That is not just about high-order level of thinking, but also being able to orchestrate and collaborate across the silos, right? Across the ecosystem, across the value chain, so as to be able to create new commercial models, be able to deliver new types of services, be able to create value that we have not seen before. I think that's the role of the human now, because a lot of the analysis, a lot of the data collection, a lot of the processing, they won't be there anymore. I think it's really about being open, being adaptable, being comfortable with the ambiguity. It's the soft skills that we talk about, and the ability and willingness to learn new skills as and when they come on, right? And these could be technical skills. And maybe the soft skills could be more important than the technical skills, because the technical skills gradually may become more of a click here, click there, user interface. You have to complement that with, what do I use it for? How do I influence people to come along with me? What other new ideas can I come up with, So the creativity, the openness, the adaptability, all these could become much more important. Whilst individuals must be open, curious and want to learn, but I think organizations have a role to play to create that environment for them to do so. Not just from a learning perspective, but also looking into maybe perhaps job redesign in order for them to coexist with machines, for example. And I've also worked with clients where we try to imagine in the near term how machines will transform the work they do, and therefore understand the kind of skills that individuals need to acquire and start having a systematic plan to at least start thinking about transition, the skills that need to pick up, the kind of workforce we need, and the kind of workforce we still need to hire. So I think there is a role for organizations to play here. And that was my hot take on the future of cities and future of work. I hope you enjoyed the video. Stay safe and take care.